Hello, cinema lovers. Welcome back to Rogue Cinema. 50 years ago, a child entered cinema history. Not with a chainsaw, not wearing a mask, not hiding in the shadow. Instead, he wore a smile, and that made him even more terrifying. In fourth week of June 1976, The Omen arrived in theaters and quietly changed horror forever. It proved that true fear doesn't always come from monster or gore. Sometimes fear comes from an innocent looking child and the possibility that evil may already be sitting at your dinner table. Today, on the film's 50th anniversary, we are looking back at one of the greatest supernatural horror films ever made. This is the story of how The Omen became a cultural phenomenon, why it has terrified an entire generation, and why 50 years later it remains just as chilling. Let's pay homage to this ever classic horror by assessing its brilliance in today's time. Before proceeding further, we would appreciate your help and love by subscribing the channel and sharing this video with your friends and family. The horror landscape of the 1970s. Before The Omen, horror cinema was undergoing a transformation. The old gothic monsters of previous decades were losing their grip on audiences. Then came a new generation of horror films. Rosemary's Baby in 1968, The Exorcist in 1973. These films brought evil into the modern world. The devil wasn't hiding in castles anymore, he was living next door. And after the enormous success of The Exorcist, Hollywood realized that audiences were fascinated by religious horror. But no one expected The Omen to become the next major milestone. Directed by Richard Donner, before he became famous for Superman and Lethal Weapon, The Omen took biblical prophecy and transformed it into a psychological nightmare. The premise was simple. What if the Antichrist wasn't some distant figure from Revelation? What if he was already here? And what if you were raising him? It's a plot built on a dread. One reason The Omen still works today is its patience. Modern horror often relies on constant scares. The Omen takes the opposite approach. The film follows Robert Thorn, an American diplomat, played brilliantly by Gregory Peck. After his biological child dies during childbirth, he secretly adopts another infant to spare his wife the pain. That child is Damien. At first everything seems normal. Then strange things begins happening. An aggressive dog, a mysterious nanny, warning from a priest, unexplained deaths, and gradually Robert realizes that his son may be the Antichrist foretold in scriptures. What's so remarkable is how slowly the film reveals its horror. The audience senses something is wrong long before the characters do. That growing tension becomes unbearable, and that's where The Omen finds its power. Direction. Richard Donner demonstrates remarkable control over atmosphere, building dread through restraint rather than relying on constant shocks. The film's deliberate pacing occasionally slows the momentum, but the sense of impending doom never fades. Acting. The performances are grounded and convenient, lending credibility to an otherwise supernatural premise. Gregory Peck anchors the film with gravitas, while the supporting cast effectively amplifies the growing unease. And it's needless to say what Harvey Spencer has done with his remarkable role. Script, screenplay, editing. The screenplay carefully escalates the mystery, revealing crucial information at precisely the right moment. Tight editing keeps the narrative focused, ensuring that tension steadily accumulates until the powerful climax. Dialogues. The dialogue serves the story efficiently and avoids unnecessary exposition. While not particularly quotable, it remains effectively in conveying character motivations and maintaining the film's serious tone. Technical work, sound and cinematography. Jerry Goldsmith's haunting score is instrumental in creating the film's unsettling atmosphere and remains one of horror cinema's finest music achievements. The cinematography complements the mood beautifully, using shadows, framing, and locations to evoke constant discomfort. Impact. Few horror films have left such a lasting mark on popular culture, with its imagery and themes remaining influential decades later. Even today, its blend of religious horror and psychological tension retained considerable power. Why The Omen still works 50 years later. Many horror films age poorly. Special effects become outdated, scares lose their impact, cultural fears change, but The Omen remains effective because it taps into something timeless: fear of parenthood, fear of destiny, fear that evil may wear a familiar face. At its core, The Omen asks an impossible question: what would you do if the person you love most become the greatest threat to humanity? That's a terrifying concept in any decade. The film also avoids over explaining its mythology. Mystery remains, questions remain, and audience continue debating the film 50 years later. Its legacy on horror cinema. The Omen's influence can be seen across decades of horror. Countless films borrowed its formula: the innocent child with dark powers, religious conspiracy, apocalyptic prophecies, the collision of faith and horror. Without The Omen, many of the supernatural horror films that follow might never have existed in the same form. Its DNA can be found throughout modern horror cinema. And despite sequels, remakes, and imitators, the original remains unmatched because it understood something fundamental. The scariest horrors aren't the one hiding under the bed. They are the ones sitting beside us every day. Rogue Cinema proudly celebrates and pays homage to 50 glorious years of Omen, a timeless masterpiece that redefined supernatural horror for generations. Half a century later, Damien Thorn's chilling legacy continues to haunt, fascinate, and captivate audiences around the world. Please support us by liking the video, and if you haven't subscribed the channel yet, you are probably never going to see us again. And if you have, or you are going to, then you're welcome to the Rogue Cinema family. See you soon.